this event and allowing us to share our goals, and to all of you who took the time to come. Why am I running? When invited by the Conservative Party of Canada to run in Nickel Belt, I said yes as I felt it was a chance to serve my community and my country. It is hard work, but I view it as my personal contribution to grassroots democracy. I care about our country, protecting people, the environment, and democratic privileges. As a business partner in a construction company, I learned about money management, customer satisfaction, employee relationships, and working with unions. While growing our business, we raised a family of 4 children, and I studied part-time at Laurentian University and later at University of Toronto. Lately, I've studied organic farming, dabbled with goats, chickens, and growing vegetables. I speak Finnish and continue to improve my French. I'm told repeatedly at the doors that we cannot afford another 4 years of the constant deficit spending by this government. The borrowed monies mount daily, as does the interest that must be paid to the lenders. The net result is less room for social funding and tax relief. I believe the federal debt is at somewhere around $896 billion. If this spending spree continues, how long can we expect Canada to remain a fiscally healthy and a viable economy for future investors? I want to support and champion the farmers, business people, and citizens of Nickel Belt and take their concerns to Ottawa.
Thank you very much. Ms. Holden, your opening statement, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to the Greater Sudbury Chamber of Commerce for holding this debate, and thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. I think it's safe to say that people in Canada are tired of the status quo, and we're tired of politics as usual. One of the things that I heard going door to door was that a lot of people didn't want to vote because they don't feel like their vote matters. They feel like no matter who they vote for, we're going to end up with a government that doesn't serve the best interests of Canadians, that makes a lot of empty promises they won't keep, and that politicians just simply can't be trusted. I think we definitely need to change democracy. We need to restore our democracy, and I want to be a part of that change. I had a really interesting conversation with my dad about this recently, and he said that, all these politicians, they talk about bullying and they'll stand up for bullying when it comes to kids in school, but he said they should really take a look at themselves. And, that really resonated with me. Sorry, my microphone cut out for a second. One of the reasons I joined the Green Party is because the Green Party gives me the freedom to, best represent the constituents, but also because we're not here to debase other people and politicians to try and get our points across, and that's what I really respect about it. Me as an individual, as a Canadian, and as a voter, I have a lot of concerns. Obviously, the state of our democracy is one of them. We really need to bring the debate back with respect to electoral reform and proportional representation. We have 6 candidates up here trying to get a seat in the House of Commons, but we're going to be participating in what's really like an outdated 2-party system that needs to change. I also want to really bring the shift back.
Keep going, Mike.
Oh, okay. I want to bring the shift back with respect to the climate debate. It's become a very polarized issue, and I think we've lost touch of it as a society where we're focusing.
Keep going if you want another 10, 15 seconds.
Okay, I'm sorry, you said 2 bells and I was done.
No, absolutely. Please give yourself another 15, 20 seconds.
Okay.
We're a little messed up on the bell system here. So.
Okay, so we're focusing too much on whether or not climate change is real and it's the result of carbon pollution, and not enough on the fact that we are causing a lot of irreversible physical damage to our environment with respect to the growing amounts of garbage pollution in our lakes, oil pollution, or like in our oceans, oil leaking into the ocean, the amount of devastation done to our land, air pollution in other countries. It is bad, and it's like we're not focusing on the real issues with respect to our environment, and we're so caught up in whether or not climate change is real. I really want to help bring that debate back.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Sorry about that. We have everything. Okay, so Mr. Cavola, you're up.
Hello. I am Nico Papa, and I was born and raised in the Nickel Belt region. I graduated in the first year that Nipissing University was accredited. Throughout my work life, I've had to change along with our changing economy. I have management experience from working on maintenance work on wind farms in Manitoba and Southern Ontario. I have been on construction jobs in the oil fields of Alberta and also performed maintenance work on one of those oil sites. I have experience in the pulp and paper industry as well as the lumber industry. I feel with this variety of experience, this gives me a good base to enter into politics. I chose the PPC because we want to simplify our lives and give us our freedoms back. This country has been going further and further away from the sovereign Canada that I grew up in. Our current Prime Minister believes that there are no Canadian values. I disagree. We as the PPC will remove the outside influence of the UN and develop policies that strengthen every citizen across this country. We need to lower taxes, lower the cost of food, and balance the budget, leading to a lower debt and ultimately more funds to be put back into this country. If you vote for me and my party, and we have enough influence in Parliament, you will see a more prosperous Canada, a cleaner Canada, and a more secure Canada.
Thank you.
I'll take us 30 seconds to acknowledge that we are on Robson-Huron Treaty territory and recognize Atikamekw Anishinaabe First Nation and Wampate First Nation that are part of Nicolet. I'll take us 30 seconds for that.
Appreciate that. Mr. Paquette, the floor is yours.
Annie, bonjour. Bonsoir tout le monde. Merci beaucoup d'être là. Hi everyone, I'm Steph Paquette. I'm your NDP candidate. What you see is what you get. I'm a professional singer-songwriter, I'm a TV actor, TV host, and I'm currently employed by the French Public School Board as the cultural facilitator for Indigenous education. I was born and raised in Chelmsford. I now live in Hanmer or Val Thorens, depending on where you went. I have 3 kids, yeah, you know. I have 3 kids and a grandchild. I have a beautiful Ojibwe wife from Sagamon First Nation. I'm the son of a miner, a steelworker, and a school teacher. So needless to say, I was pretty much raised on picket lines as a kid. I got to see firsthand, at a very young age, my parents stand up for what's right. Stand up for their rights, and that's why I'm here. Because the status quo just doesn't seem to work for me. It doesn't seem to work for many of us. In a country as rich as Canada, so many of us have trouble making ends meet, and that's unacceptable. It's 2019, and we're facing a climate crisis, a student debt crisis, a housing crisis, a senior care crisis, an opioid crisis. For every dollar companies pay in income tax, workers pay $3.50. You know, in a relationship or a business, when things don't work, when things go from bad to worse, you look at the patterns. Well, the pattern is simple. It's 152 years of liberal in government, power-sharing government. Things need to change. We need to do politics differently. We need a government that will treat its citizens with the respect and dignity we all deserve. I'm Steph Paquette, and it would be an honor and my privilege to be your next member of Parliament. Merci, Butch.
Thank you. Mr. Surrey.
Bonsoir, Annie. Let me bring you back 4 years ago when you entrusted me to be your MP for Nickel Belt. 2 days after the 2015 election, while others were celebrating, I made my way to Ottawa, the first MP to arrive, and to hire the very best team for Nickel Belt. I made many local phone calls, and an amazing team was put in place and came together. The goal was to ensure that you deserve the support in this riding. And a huge thank you to the team that I have in place right now. Quelques semaines après, j'ai rencontré les maires et tous les conseillers de tous les municipaux à travers du comté pour parler de leurs priorités. My commitment was clear, to bring change and to make a difference. We've accomplished so many major changes, and we need to continue moving forward. I promise my commitment over the next 4 years will be to do the same mindset. A top team, positive communication, and real action locally. Je veux bâtir sur le succès que nous avons fait dans les dernières 4 années de travail avec vous. I've delivered results for Nickel Belt Greater Sudbury, such as historic investments in infrastructure, offered more support for families and seniors, diversified and grew our economy with good paying jobs. My motion passed in the House of Commons in 2017 was to develop Canada's first ever national senior strategy, and that prompted the creation of a ministry dedicated for seniors. Also, as National Caucus Chair, Rural Caucus Chair, I also established the creation of a new ministry for rural economic development. It's a huge benefit for Northern Ontario. By voting for me, you're choosing to have your voice represented loudly in Ottawa by someone dedicated, experienced, accountable, and working hard for you. Merci.
Thank you very much for their introductory remarks. We will now go to the panelists for their questions. So first we're going to call upon Anthony Davis. to ask his first question.
Good evening, candidates. Access to broadband remains a challenge to doing business in many northern and rural communities. What will your party do to address the challenge?
Thank you, Anthony. I will call upon the candidates in random order to respond to this question, and I'd like to remind the candidates that you have 1 minute and 30 seconds to respond. So, Mr. Paquette, your response, please.
We all know that broadband is necessary. Nobody in 2019, no small business, big business can survive without broadband or reliable cell service. But we can't keep giving money to the big companies like Bell and Rogers. We have a duopoly here in Canada. Duopoly where 91% of the market share is controlled by these two massive companies. They have no interest to come here in Northern Ontario because there's no money to be made. Make no mistake, these companies are there for one reason only, to make money for their shareholders. Bell announced a month ago that they would cut 200,000 households in Northern Ontario from services because it would cost them $100 million for the infrastructure. This is a company that made $28.2 billion last year. We need to stop these companies from buying all the broadband, and we need to privatize. We need to work with communities, and I get it, not every... What was that? Oh my God, that bell is so confusing. I was like, oh, I just got an idea. We need to work with municipalities, and I get it, not every community in Northern Ontario, Nickel Belt, have a municipality. We need to stop these big companies. We need to stop subsidizing these big companies, and we need to go in alone. We need to subsidize the smaller ones, the ones that are willing to go in and actually work in these small communities to make it happen.
Thank you very much. Mr. Surratt?
Thank you for the question, and this has been at the heart of what I've been doing as Parliamentary Secretary with Rural Economic Development. We've now established a ministry dedicated for rural economic development with a first priority about internet. So one of the first things we've done just recently in the budget 2019 is we've added $1 billion for a fund so that provinces, the private sector could now apply in the long term. And it's important that we need to look at the private sector because as you know here in Canada, the private sector, big and small, are responsible to set up the internet. So what we're looking at also, part of the government, what we've done is we've worked with the CRTC. Now there's a lens on rural. So the priority for broadband is to ensure that we get the remaining of the population connected to high-speed internet and cell towers, broadband. So one of the first things that's going to happen as soon as we come back, there's going to be an auction for spectrum. And as you know, in the past you've heard a lot of these spectrums, there were the big companies, but now it'll be targeted to get a fourth player. And everywhere there's a fourth player in the market, there is better cell coverage and there is better pricing. There's not only coverage, but we're also working on pricing. So this is one of my priorities and part of the Liberal government's initiative of ensuring that by 2021 that we'll have 90% of Canadians connected. And my role working with FedNor and working with the local businesses, I met with Vianet, with Bell, with Spectrum, all locally to make sure that this is happening.
Thank you. Mr. Pavola?
Yeah, living in the north has its issues, that's for sure. And what we're talking about is internet service and broadband. And I agree that we need to encourage more businesses to come in to open up the markets. And what the People's Party, what we would try to do is to lower taxes across the board. That would make it more affordable for companies to come in to offer those services. And we wouldn't just offer lower taxes for companies, we would actually lower the taxes on the workers itself, having a two-bracket income tax instead of the five-bracket one that's currently right now. So we got the first 15,000 at 0, 15 to 100 at 15%, then over 100,000 we would be taxing people at 25%. So that there goes into other issues where we get more money at the end of the day. But we're talking about internet, and with companies spending less money to put their businesses forth, that would give them more ability to provide those services. And then if we open up, as we said earlier, to competition, that would drive prices down just by the nature of business.
Thank you very much. Ms. Malone?
I also live in an area where the internet service is very spotty, and I have fought for decades.
Actually, it's Ms. Lalone, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
All good? Can we start the timer over?
Okay, thank you. It's nice to see an issue where we're all kind of in agreement. Of course, the Green Party definitely wants to make sure that all Canadians have access to high-speed internet. That's why one of the things we would do, that we need to do, is develop a national strategy of getting everybody connected. It's a lot easier, I think, to connect people to high-speed internet where the infrastructure exists. The challenge is when we go up north where, we have communities that don't even have roads going into them, so how do we get high-speed internet up there? I don't think it's impossible, but it's something that we definitely have to work on at the federal level. Another thing we really need to do and keep in mind is net neutrality. We have to protect and defend net neutrality. Another thing, and this was touched upon, we have to work to make sure that there is competition in the market. Canadians pay some of the highest cell phone and internet fees in the world, and that needs to change, because the only reason we're paying so much is that we have, a small handful of corporations dominating the market. We need to open that up for competition. Another, one thing I really like about the Green Platform that's kind of unique to us is the idea of reimagining Canada Post. Canada Post has a lot of potential to serve small communities. One of the ways that they could help communities access the internet is by serving as a high-speed internet hub for those local communities.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lalone?
So, as I was saying, for decades, I live in the bush, so for decades I've been fighting with Bell Canada. I pay way too much for internet, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, and I don't dare download anything, because I'll be charged extra, $30, $50, whatever. So I compared my rates with some of my family in BC, and they pay a fraction of what I pay for much better service. So what is the answer for that? I think competition is probably very good. The more competitors you have, the lower the prices will be. And we don't have that in this area. So for sure we've given large companies monopolies, and perhaps they confer with each other to keep those rates where they are. But we do need better rates and better service for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now open the floor to a debate. So I invite all of you to challenge each other or to ask questions. We will debate for 4 minutes. So please start the time. The debate is open.
I got a chance to do a mobile campaign office and go around because I made a promise that I would step foot in every community in Nickel Belt from here to the election. And I was hoping to post on Facebook as often as I could, but my cell phone didn't work half the time. Got to River Valley, and there's still a payphone outside. And people in River Valley, my mother-in-law lives in Biscotacy, and they're not even talking about high-speed internet or cell phones. Their landlines are still not fully functional. So if these companies are not even going there to fix the landlines, like you go to River Valley or in Bisco, they go, oh yeah, well it was raining, the phone doesn't work. Everybody knows the phone doesn't work when it's raining. What do you mean landline doesn't work when it's raining? So if these companies are not even willing to fix landlines, how can we trust subsidizing or giving money to these companies that they'll actually go in there and fix or give it, like Monsieur Subis in the River Valley, the first thing he said, yeah, your cell phone, yeah, we were promised a cell tower here, but no, we still don't have it. There's no money to be made for these big companies. So I can't trust.
I don't understand what you're saying. I mean, subsidize, you can't subsidize the companies. Northern Ontario is no different than many other areas across Canada. We need to ensure the low population, so we need to have government play a role with the private sector. We need to put the conditions in place to support the private sector. Some of the big, yes, some of the big telcos, but also some of the small players. And that's what we're doing as a government. The spectrum that's coming out right now will be encouraging, because in the past it didn't. It was the highest bidder. Whoever bought the highest bidder now is going to be based on if there is a third or a fourth player in the market. And everywhere that's happened, the cell phones have reduced the bills by 25%. It's happening as we speak. We have to do more here, and the issue with population is an issue, so we need to be able to play a role federally and provincially to support companies in order to do that, because we're not asking $1 municipality to provide broadband. They don't have the infrastructure, they don't have expertise. They need to work closely with the private sector. And that's what I've done since the beginning. Yes, we've gotten $1 million for St. Charles. We got many areas like River Valley, Cookiegamie. There's many areas here that we could talk to. I've had 2 cell phones, one from Bell, one from Rogers, for the past 15 years because of the area.
Also, the
That's
Casey-
important to do that. So
Casey.
we need to work closely with the private sector on this.
So I think this is a really important conversation we need to have. There are a number of people who don't have access to reliable high-speed internet. But that being said, like I said, the farther north we go, the harder it is to access communities. We have a number of northern Indigenous communities that don't have roads leading into the communities, and a lot of communities who still don't have clean, drinkable water. So like getting internet, like getting the physical infrastructure built is going to be a huge project. It might even require that we build other types of infrastructure just to make it happen. So I think that we need to take that into consideration as, potential members of parliament, or even, whoever the government is going to be, that it's not even just about getting the internet there. We have to build up these communities and make sure that the physical infrastructure is in place so they can have internet. And that, just like Steph said, if you don't have a reliable landline, like that's usually the precursor to internet.
We need to also make sure that government services, that the people who work for government services understand where they're calling. Example, my mother-in-law in Discotasing, and she calls for either CRA or, and you go, no, you can go online and just register online. Often we're getting suggested to go online and register and stuff like that, but these people need to understand also that who they're talking to in these regions that they're talking. I mean, you can't, some of these kids now, high school needs, 20 hours online?
Thank you very much.
You can't finish high school.
All right.